Direct, serious tone. Choosing where your Power App data lives is a permanent decision. Pick the wrong foundation, and your application will eventually collapse under the weight of its own data or drain your IT budget entirely. Most teams start with SharePoint. It is an incredibly tempting option because it is already included in your Microsoft 365 license. You can build flat data architectures and roll them out to thousands of users for free. On the other side is Dataverse. This path requires a $20 per user monthly premium license, but it unlocks a true relational database and the ability to build sophisticated model-driven apps. Side by side, the trade-off is clear. SharePoint wins on price, but struggles with complex queries. Dataverse requires investment, but scales seamlessly. Force complex apps onto SharePoint, and you hit a ceiling. Use Dataverse for simple forms, and you waste thousands on licenses. To make the right choice, you have to look objectively at your user volume, your projected row counts, and your data model's complexity. The biggest hurdle in this decision is an abstract concept called delegation. If you have ever seen a yellow warning triangle hovering over your Power Apps formula bar, you have encountered the invisible tripwire that dictates whether your app processes data on the server or on the user's local device. A delegable query means the server does the heavy lifting. If the database holds 10,000 records and you ask for 5 specific ones, the server finds them and sends those 5 straight to the app. It is fast and precise. A non-delegable query forces the app to do the work locally. The server simply dumps the first 500 records onto the user's device. The app searches through that small pile, and the remaining 9,500 records are completely walled off and ignored. This results in silent data failure. A user might search for a client record that exists on row 501, but the app will incorrectly tell them the record doesn't exist because it literally cannot see it. This infographic breaks down the exact formulas that trigger this failure. Functions like measuring character length or using the standard search command force local processing and break delegation in SharePoint. On the side, we see the safe alternatives. To maintain server-side processing, you must rely on delegable functions like filter and starts with. Firmly, a delegation warning is not a suggestion to optimize your code. It represents the absolute physical boundary of what your application can accurately process. SharePoint struggles with delegation because at its core, it is a flat list posing as a database. It enforces a hard view threshold of 5,000 items. Any query asking the server to look through more than 5,000 rows is aggressively blocked to protect server resources. Getting past this threshold requires a strict strategy of indexed columns and heavily filtered views, narrowing down data before the app even requests it. SharePoint also lacks true referential integrity. While you can use lookup columns, they do not act as true foreign keys, meaning multi-table relationships quickly become complex and difficult to manage. Relying on item-level permissions to manage security across thousands of rows creates operational drag. It degrades list performance and requires constant manual upkeep. SharePoint is an excellent free starting point, but treating it like a fully featured relational database leaves you with a slow, unmaintainable architecture. Dataverse is Microsoft's purpose-built, cloud-based relational database designed specifically to handle Power Platform scale. Because it is a true database, Dataverse fully supports server-side delegation. You can run complex sorting and filtering across millions of rows, and the server returns the exact results instantly. It also enforces business rules and column-level security directly at the server level. This guarantees that your data validation logic is impossible to bypass, even if someone circumvents the app interface. The trade-off for this capability is a steeper learning curve. Development teams have to understand environments, solution packaging, and strict security roles. Ultimately, you are trading upfront financial cost and technical complexity for absolute, bulletproof stability over the long term. Often, developers try to indefinitely hack SharePoint to avoid paying the premium for Dataverse. They build complex Power Automate flows or use heavy local data collections to cheat the delegation rules. These workarounds introduce a severe performance penalty. Loading all that data into local memory causes the app to freeze, forcing users to wait awkwardly while the system grinds to a halt. There is also a hidden labor cost. Maintaining clever code hacks and managing fragmented data flows as the app scales requires constant developer intervention. Building a complex application on a free backend eventually costs the organization more in developer overhead and lost productivity than premium licenses ever would. This decision tree maps your use case. If building an enterprise CRM with highly relational tables or massive row counts, you must choose Dataverse. The premium cost is justified. If your profile is cost-conscious, needing a simple single-table form, SharePoint is the practical choice. But if you take the SharePoint path, developers must strictly adhere to delegable functions. That discipline is the only way to keep the app alive as the dataset grows over time. Let your data complexity and user volume dictate your architecture on day one. It is much easier to start with the right foundation than to execute an expensive